video, we're going to talk about on base versus off base, which is a concept you should be familiar with, especially if you're fresh out of beauty school, okay? So when we talk about base, what we're really talking about is the area at the scalp where you take your section. So if my section is this, it's not about this hair. The base is where it's coming from. Yeah, so when we're saying on base, we're referring to this section. And when we take, let's say we're rolling up the hair like this, it refers to whether or not this hair that I'm holding is directly on my section, you see like this, or it's below it, or it's above it, or it's off to either side, okay? If it's on base, it means that it's perfectly in its section, okay? So if my scalp area section is there, my hair is in that same zone. If it goes below that, it's called off base, okay? It can also be, like I said, off base can also be above. Off base can also mean that I'm bringing it to the side, so I have to take this section. If I were to pin it over here, this is my base, and I'm pinning it over here, meaning it's off the base, okay? Same thing over here, except for this would be a little bit harder because there's not as much to pin it, so I could still do it on the other side, okay? So the reason that we need to talk about on base or off base is just to be aware of where we're pinning the hair. So when we're doing a curl, if I stick my curling iron right at the base and I'm up here, I'm on base, okay? So right here. So I'm right on the base. And when I'm going to pin it, I can also then pin it on base. So I can curl it on base, I can pin it on base, and when I do that, it creates maximum volume in the hair. So I'm just gonna prematurely let this curl go, and I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. So since we put the curling iron here so that it could set, look at the volume that it's created naturally. So if I drop that, it's here, okay? So we can see that lift. And if I were to pin this right where I had it and let it sit there, let's get a little clip, and let it cool in that section, I would get way more lift out of that than if I curled it, and don't mind those ends, okay? But I don't put him on base and he's slightly below. So let's say I do it down here and I roll up. I'm not technically on base because look at where my curling iron's sitting. My base would be up here, so I'm below it. So what you'll see is that the hair now is being pulled down and not being pulled up. So when I release the curl, you're not gonna see as much volume. Okay, so see how the oomph is here now instead of all the way up here. So if you want maximum volume, you need to be on base. If you're not worried about volume, then it doesn't really matter, okay? Another thing you have to understand is that where you start to curl will influence whether it's on base or off base. So if I wanted to go on base, I actually have to lift the hair more out and slightly up. That way when I roll in, I'm right on top of my section. If I'm down and I roll up, I will automatically end up lower than my section. If I try to go up, I'll then burn my client or create really weird stuff. So you have to understand on base, off base, and elevation, okay, which is up or down, and over direction, which is right and left, okay? If I pull my curl all the way over here and then I try to straighten it, it's gonna do weirder things. So I need to understand, do I wanna over direct it? Do I need to elevate it or keep it low in order to roll it where I want? Okay, so understanding on base and off base is important for whether we want to create lift or whether we need to create an exaggerated pulled thing in one direction, okay? So remember, the base is kind of the scalp area. On base means you're right on top of that section. Off base means you're somewhere around, and you need to use elevation and over direction or not use those in order to create the look you want. Okay, so hope this makes sense.